Forgive me, YouTube. I must now break my oath. I said I would only do one tier list per month, but I've already done one in early April, and now I'm doing a second one in later April. But I've ran out of ideas for videos, and I've been wanting to do this idea for a little while, so I decided, screw it, we're just gonna go ahead and we're going to rank the jank. So this is going to be a tier list of all of the more questionable boss monsters that I've explored on the channel, and some that I haven't as well. We've thrown in basically every one that would be played in some weird jank deck that wasn't in the last boss monster tier list, and then also we're excluding synchros because they're just so generic, so toolboxy in nature. It's hard to even call them boss monsters. So we do have one fusion monster on here, which is the Over Dragon, but yeah, no synchros. So we've ended up with these 20 with the criteria that I have imposed. We have 5 tiers. So first one's legit. These are ones that you could play in a real deck and do well with, potentially. It's just borderline just good boss monsters, honestly, just go in this category. Playable-ish, not quite actually good, but close to good maybe. Bad, bad is just the standard level for jank boss monsters. And then worse, I don't know, I just wanted a buffer tier before the lowest one, and then the lowest one is just, what the hell is going on here? So yeah, I think I'm going to start at the bottom and move to the top. So we're going to go with Doomdozer first. Now Doomdozer's interesting. It is 2800. However, even insect decks don't really play this card, but you could imagine an insect deck that does play it. However, you can only really just summon it from your hand, and its effect is actively bad too because it lets your opponent mill. So, but it's not that bad. And 28 is big. That's actually a relevant number. Once you get up to 25, it stops being relevant until you get to 28 in terms of the increases. But the fact that it trades with Goyo is actually pretty relevant. Then again, it's bad because Colossal will double bunk that. So where I put it, oh, that's actually tough. I'm between bad and worse on this one. I feel it's not quite bottom tier. It could be bottom of bad, top of worse. Answering this one would be a lot easier once I had seen it filled out more and can explain relatively where it should go. So maybe we'll put it in, it's summoning condition is pretty easy and its stats are really high, so let's put it in bad for now and just see how the list fills out. Green Baboon would be great if it didn't if it actually worked in damage step, but it doesn't, so you're going in this tier. Yellow Baboon would be great if the words on it were completely different than what they are, so it's also going in this tier. Just yeah, these two are completely unplayable. Green Baboon would be Green Baboon would just be a full-on, not even in this tier list if it actually worked in damage step like it used to. It would just be on the legit boss monster tier list, but the fact that it doesn't work when things die by battle, which is pretty much how everything ever dies in the entire format, just makes it worthless. Also, wait, does Green Baboon, can this miss timing too? Because I feel it can. So, the only other way anything dies in this format is getting Raikou, and that would also just make Green Baboon, Defender of the Forest, miss timing. That is so bad. So you're only ever resolving this off of Mirror Force or Torrential Tribute specifically. There's just nothing else. There's literally nothing else in the entire format that lets you resolve this, right? Because it is an optional. It's an optional effect, right? Someone make sure that's true. But yeah, I mean, these two are terrible. Yellow Baboon can only come out of your hand, and you have to banish 2. So what the hell is that? Why is there multiple cumbersome restrictions on this thing? They're both 26, which is great and all, but I mean, why would you play them? They're so bad. Chimera Tech Overdragon. Overload Fusion is limited in this format. So, that being said, you can reveal it for Few to send your whole deck. And that's pretty nuts. And every now and then you can maybe summon it and just randomly OTK. So, I'm going to put it in worse. I think it's pretty bad, but it's got like some qualities that keep it above this tier. Like, the fact you reveal it as a target for Few isn't really a great point in its favor as an actual boss monster, but it is something. So I feel like it deserves to not be in the bottom tier at least. Great Shogun Shien. Even 6 Sams don't play this card. At least as far as I know. But I think it is... Is it down here? The fact that Samurai doesn't play it just makes it like impossible to imagine anything playing it, right? It's not like with Doomdozer where you're like, well, if someone re-innovates the insect deck into like some mill pile or something, you can maybe play this. But Samurai is just like super clear what the optimal build is, and it's not on this card. So I don't see just any potential use for this in the Edison format at all. So I'm putting it in the bottom tier, actually. I've thought it through. It belongs in the bottom tier. Zeta Reticulant. This one is going in playable-ish. You actually do summon it. It's not just a graveyard effect, because you can tribute one of the tokens to just special it from your hand if you draw it, which is quite relevant, because you need ways to convert off the tokens that you spam with it. So it's good to play like 3 of this guy, and then you just like special it out, and is he 25? I think he's 25 or 26. His stats are... No, he's 24. He's 24, okay. It would be a lot better if he was 25 or 26, obviously. That being said, I mean, you can just special it, and of course it's got its graveyard effect that's really good and is the main reason that you play it. So, yeah, I mean, the Zeta deck, I feel like, is almost good. It has a lot of synergy with a lot of really good cards. You just play, like, triple DD Warrior Lady and Raikos and Caiuses and like Deep Prisons and Bottomlesses in that deck because of like the inherent synergies with Zeta Reticulant, and banishing things is just such a good form of removal. So I feel like these factors really propel it higher than it would be in a vacuum. So I'm going to put it up in playable-ish. It's not quite a legit boss monster. I feel like it could be, though. It's like close, you know, so playable-ish seems like the right place for it. Dragon Queen of Tragic Endings. I have this one on here solely because I wanted a like Crystal Beast related boss monster on the list, which is pretty much the only play that I know of that this card gets. Is you can like use Sapphire Pegasus and stuff to fill up your spell trap zones and then drop it. It is better than all of the other Crystal Beast boss monsters like Haman or Rainbow Dragon, which are just obscenely difficult to summon or require too much. However, its effect is crazy, but its stats aren't good enough for its effect to matter. It's just like 19... Is it 1950 or is it just 1900? I don't know. Either way, it's way, way, way too small. It doesn't get over anything. This thing needed to be like 26 or something. Like legit. It needed to be beaten over Stardust and Caius and stuff to have any use. Like, as it stands, I'm not even playing this card in any Crystal Beast build. It's just too garbage. It's just too small. Like, what are you hitting over with this? Like, to actually get the effect? How do you resolve the +2? Like, the +2 is great in theory, but how do you resolve the +2 when the monster is this small? So I'm going to put it down here. We're actually getting a lot more in the why do you exist here than I originally thought. Yeah, I just think complete garbage. I wouldn't put it in anything. I mean, the only thing you would really consider putting it in is Crystal Beast anyway, which is already a garbage deck. Just, like, terrible. But it's not even good in that deck. I wouldn't even play it in that, so if you're going down here and why do you exist? Maybe like between I don't know if we're gonna have things ordered within tiers or whatnot. If we are, what's the order down here? Yeah, this might be right. I don't know. Shogun Shien's probably better than the rest. Relinquished. He's probably got to go up in playable-ish. I don't like this deck. I don't like any ritual deck in this format, but like, if you're gonna play one, Relinquished is probably the way to go. I think he's way better than the Demise King of Armageddon decks. Like, being able to yoink stuff is a great form of removal. Same reason, like, Plasma is kind of a underrated boss monster. And, like, it would be great if he could protect himself from non-battle destruction, but being able to protect yourself from battle destruction, and also even the burn effect can be relevant sometimes. So I think Relinquished is like okay as a boss. It's like, is it even a boss monster? I don't know. It's kind of like the central boss monster of a deck, so we're gonna say it's a boss monster. I think it definitely belongs in playable-ish. You can make a decent deck out of it. I just don't really like it. I'm not a fan of the ritual stuff, but it is definitely better than all of this nonsense down here. So I think it can go up here. It's not quite legit though. Neither Red Lotus. You have to play an all normal monster deck to play this card, and its summoning condition is kind of hard. You need exactly 3 normals, right? It's like Dark Armed. It only works with exact 3. That is harsh. And then all it does is like special some stuff back. So, it's not like these down here is pretty much relegated to the tier of just why would you even play this in anything? So I feel like it's got to be above that since there is a deck that plays this card out there. It's a wacky ass jank deck, but it does exist and someone does play it and there is a reason to play it. So it's probably going to have to go in the worst tier rather than the why do you exist tier, but still pretty garbage. Gaia plate. We're going to say bad. It's kind of like, it's just better Doomdozer, because it can like have things and do big damage. You do have to like banish a rock as a maintenance cost in your standby phase though, which is quite bad. However, having things does make it easier to just get like wacky game shots with this thing. Kind of like E-Hero Gaia. So it's pretty big. 28's quite big. So I think this might even be like a top of bad. This card is almost good to be. It's like borderline. So this is probably a fine spot for it. It really is quite similar to Doomdozer if you think about it, but for rocks, which are probably a better type than insects, but it's close. So yeah, Mega Rock just sucks. Unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, I want to put it here because I love this card, but let's be honest. This thing is not good. Gaia Plate is so much better than Mega Rock Dragon. I feel like there's just no reason to play it at all in anything ever. As much as I want to cope, as much as I want to like play some crazy Merchant Mill deck with this, it's just not happening. It's just not good. So unfortunate. Vandalgian. It's like okay in Counter Fairies, but Counter Fairy sucks, and like it's only good if you negate like an effect monster, right? Like there's one effect that special summons something from grave, I think, if you negate an effect monster. And then the other two are just like, oh no wait, the other one of them like pops a card, I guess, I think, if I remember. But negating spells just burns for 15 or something. But the condition for this card is just like so, it's just not that good. Like you have to resolve a counter trap while this thing is in your hand. So it's like way hard to summon if you really think about it. But it does do something pretty good on summon, but you're only really playing it in one deck that's really bad. So I'd say that's like generally the theme for this tier. It's just like mediocre cards that you're only playing in one deck, and that one deck isn't good. So 28 is quite large though. Maybe I should move this up actually. I feel like it's better than these. You can be like bottom of bad. I'm being too hard on Vandalgian. Volcanic Doomfire. I mean, textbook, why do you exist? This thing is just like a dude. He just might as well not even have an effect. His effect is completely worthless. He's just a big guy that you summon by hard negging yourself, like multiple times over. Because you have to get the Blaze Accelerator, and then you have to tribute the Blaze to get the Tri-Blaze, and then you have to tribute that to get this. And he doesn't do anything. He's just a guy. Like, he doesn't do anything to recover the card advantage you lost. He doesn't plus you in any way like Rocket does or whatever. He's just a dude. And yeah, I don't know. Why would you ever play this thing? Actually, I think I played it in a video once, but it was garbage for sure. Just terrible. So yeah. Desert Twister. Oh, how high can I cope on this thing? I played a deck with it, but for all practical purposes, I think it's gotta be down here. I mean, the summoning condition is awful. The best thing you can do is prio, discard a card to target a back row, and then if it's chainable, you've gone like -2 or something, so yeah, that seems pretty garbage on paper, not gonna lie. Yeah, this card sucks. What can I say? You have to banish like two, is it 2 winds and an earth? So just like the most awkward to summon thing in the world, and then it's just a 2300, and its effect is terrible. So yeah, I mean, the why do you exist tiers? It's really piling up here. Speaking of which, Frost and Flame Dragon. This one is more manageable to summon than Desert Twister, and also it pops monsters, so you can at least like prio out a monster. Plus it can like out a monster and then attack that turn. Desert Twister is the same, but of course it doesn't do anything proactive in terms of dealing with your opponent's board. Also, waters and fires I mentioned is a lot easier than winds and earths. So I feel like this might be pure copium, but I'll put it up in here in worse. I think I've played this card in a couple decks, and it's probably not as bad as these guys down here. Even if it's worthless, even if it's terrible, I think it's a little bit better than this stuff. Because, like, it's a lot easier to set up than Desert Twister. Its effect is better. So I'm going to justify putting it at the bottom of worse because I love this card. Ananta is full-on legit. This card is awesome. Like, just getting you... First of all, you can just summon, like, a big dude, and it just gets you pluses every turn. I don't know. That seems pretty nice to me. Like, it's super easy to summon, too. Like, even in the early game, you just have 1-2 reptiles. Yeah, it won't be as big, but if you need to drop it, you can. And if you draw a late game, it's just, like, crazy. You just got, like, a giant dude popping cards every turn. It makes your opponent, like, afraid to put anything on the board. And then, like, the reptile deck itself just isn't that bad. And you have this boss monster that's kind of nuts. Like, I think this is a full-on legit card. This card is good. This card will, like, carry me to victory at some point this year, for sure. Copium. So, yeah. I mean, Ananta's legit, yeah. I think Ananta's quite good. Dark Creator. I'm going to put it top of playable-ish. It is, like, very... It's not easy to summon this guy. Like, the restriction that you have to control nothing is super obnoxious, honestly. However, it is kind of like boneless red med in a way. So maybe it should be up here. Its effect is really good. Just like getting you pluses every turn is really good. So, and you can just put it in defense, and it's like really hard to get rid of it too. It's super obnoxious. So, yeah, I think it probably belongs up in legit. I don't really... A lot of the decks that play this are just freaking Norlerus, whatever, but people build some other wacky stuff that plays it, and if you get it off, it's pretty good, so let's put it up in legit. King of the Beasts. It's just a 25 dude that keeps coming back over and over again, so it's like half as good as Machina Fortress. That being said, half as good as Machina Fortress is like kind of good. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's definitely better than these guys here, because you can just bring this guy back. You can just bring him back over and over and over again. Like, the fact that he comes back is so incredibly relevant. So, I think he's probably like top of playable-ish. Like, he's not great, but he is like necessary for the Moja deck, and he's not bad either. Like, he's a solid piece of the engine. He's like probably the worst part of the engine, but the engine in aggregate isn't that bad, and you have to play him for it. So, and 25 is like a good enough stat. Like, you would rather be 28 or higher and be able to trade with the big stuff, but like everything else relevant that isn't super just huge, like Stardust and Monarchs and Cyber Dragon and Chaos Orc and the Defenders, the Walls, the 19 beater, it gets over all of that. So definitely I think top of playable. I literally topped with this card in my deck, so I feel like it's got to be up here somewhere. I don't know, worse than the Dark Creator. It's like a bigger Sork, but its summoning condition is just obnoxiously more difficult. However, you can just like throw one in that deck, and you can summon it pretty reasonably often, and it is very good when you summon it. And it goes crazy with the fairy stuff, of course, because it is a light fairy. So, yeah, I mean, its effect on paper is super good, of course, because it is just another Sork. being 24 is great. Working with Honest is great. So, Enrise is a legit boss monster. Pretty much has to be because, like I mentioned, it is like important for the Chaos Fairy build. So, legit. And then finally, Vasky. This take is gonna get me canceled. Okay, Vasky's like the best one. It's like number one of all of these. Vasky. No, it's not copium. I swear. Here's why. All right, Vasky is like trivially easy to summon, compared to most of these guys, and she's just like a 26 that can pop something every turn. So you can like pseudo Kai's Prio pop something, and it's 26. Like it doesn't even like your opponent can make Stardust. You just hit over the Stardust and then pop a monster in main 2. It's just like so crazy. Or you can just summon it, beat in. You don't even care if they have Gores, because if they drop Gores, you just pop in main 2. And like I said, it's so easy to summon. You can use Dandy It just like randomly hard counters any like plant deck you happen to run into, because you can just use their tokens. It's great against frogs too, because you can use like their, well, it's great against certain builds. You can use like their faders. You can, if people leave Cyber Valley out there, you can use that. You can use freaking Turbo Cannon if people are making that monster against you. So you could just like randomly sack with it too a lot of times. But also you just use your own Dandy tokens to summon it. You use Naga to summon with, like if you use Naga to summon it, it's like a straight just plus. So I mean, its effect is great, its stats are great, its summoning condition is great, just everything about this card is great, honestly. So I'm putting it at the top, and you can fight me if you disagree. Anyway, I think that this is the conclusive final ranking of the Jank boss monsters. I hope you guys enjoyed today's discussion tier list video. If you have any objections, anything you would like to flame me for, be sure to put that down in the comments section. Be sure to like and subscribe, become a channel member, share the video, and I will see you tomorrow.